The market had emptied and the corn crows had flown home, but the ladder still stood against the cliff. Nobody touched it because everyone could hear the bees humming like a secret. No one knew when the ladder had become a test, only that the cliff held the last silver honey of the valley, and whoever brought it to the town square would be remembered. Kalu was not the tallest, nor the bravest, but he was small enough to fit between the rock and the hive. The elders had a plan: climb at dawn. When the bees were lazy, the young men had a plan: climb now, while the honey still glistened. The women had other plans. Some wanted the honey for medicine, others for trade. Kalu listened to all plans and kept his hands in his pockets. At sunset, when the marketplace bell clanged for the last time, the young men shoved the ladder up over the jagged stones. They shoved it hard. Anger makes firm things wobble, and before the moon could rise they were halfway up, helmeted with courage, faces bright with hurry. The bees noticed. They are old friends of the cliff and they do not forgive trespassers who arrive like a storm. Kalu waited at the base, watching. He had watched the bees for months, how they left at certain winds, how they sat heavy on flowers after rain, how the giant wasp that sometimes chased them crossed the valley on a path only when the sun hit a particular branch. He had a secret. He had learned the weather by listening to the way the courtyard dog licked its paws. He had learned the cliffs by how shadows bent in the afternoon. He had learned timing the way people learn to keep time with the pulse at their throat. The first youth returned with a face swollen and streaked, honey on his beard and tears in his eyes. His shirt was torn, his pride more so. The second came later, limp and clumsy, carrying a shattered hive and little to show for it. The third never came down. A hush spread across the square. Haste had a price, and it had been paid. That night the elders argued: punish the rash, reward the brave, forbid the climb. Kalu said nothing. He warmed his hands, watched the moon, and folded the ladder's shadow like a map in his head. On the third day, a storm came, soft and quick, like a careful thing. Rain washed the cliff and the bees, heavy with water, climbed into the honeycombs and slept. The village smelled of damp earth and the safety that comes after things have been washed. The bees, when they sleep full, are gentle, they fold like old rugs. The elders debated again, and the young men sharpened their tongues. Kalu did not climb. He waited until the fourth morning, when the sun had dried the cliff in long, slow lines and the bees were feeding in the far fields, their bellies full of the washed sweetness. He carried nothing but a quiet and a cloth. He did not race up the ladder, he moved like someone who knew his feet and the wood. When he reached the hive, the bees rose and hummed around him, like a chorus surprised, but they did not swarm. He wrapped his cloth around the combs, cut with careful hands, and descended. He was scratched, yes, no story without the scars, but his hands held more honey than the town had seen in years. At the square, the taste of that honey did not only make the old cough easier or the children smile, it made people listen. Kalu placed the jar on the market table and told the story of the ladder, of the bell that soundlessly warned, of the men who climbed too soon, of the storm that made the bees sleep like lambs. He did not say he was lucky. He did not say he was cleverer than the rest. He only told how he waited until the right moment and moved then, not earlier, not later. The townsfolk argued about praise and blame for many days. Some said Kalu had simply been lucky. Others said he was timid and had only been spared by chance. But the harvest that season turned differently. The traders who had rushed to carry grain to the next town found their carts stuck in mud from a rain they had tried to outrun. The ones who waited until the paths were firm sold their grain for better prices. A man who had forced his son into an early marriage that spring watched the couple struggle. A neighbor who delayed and let the couple grow ready first watched their family flourish. Kalu married years later, not in haste, and when his children asked why he had been so quiet in his youth, he put a jar of that silver honey between them and smiled. He said, simply, "There is a right moment for ladders. There is a wrong moment for ladders." The world teaches patience by making the wrong moment loud. When the cliff finally fell, not from anyone's hand but from weather and time, the villagers gathered the last of its honey together. They built a small bell and hung it by the square, not to call everyone at once, but so they would remember the sound that told them to stop and listen. Lesson: a hurried hand can reach first but will often leave empty. Waiting for the right moment does not mean doing nothing, it means learning when action will be true to its purpose. Timing turns effort into harvest, impatience turns harvest into memory. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like, share and drop a comment. And make sure you hit the notification bell, so you'll always be among the first to be notified when a new tale drops. See you in the next video. Bye.